And his parents are here today because they want to talk about some new developments on their end, also raise awareness that he is still missing.
Yes.
6, 7 months later now?
5.
5 months, okay. Thanks for coming in, you guys. Candace, let's just start right from the beginning, right before Memorial Day, that weekend. Dylan calls his grandmother, says he has to get the grain truck inside the shed because it was going to start to rain, to pick it up from there.
So then he was going to call her back and nobody heard from him. So that's when by Monday we had all touched on base on May 30th that morning and nobody had heard from Dylan, and that's when we all headed to the farm. So that was the last contact that day. So when we got out there, we called Box Elder, made a missing persons report. Search and rescue came out, a couple officers, and that's when maybe an hour and a half into the search, that's when his boots were found behind the dirt pile.
And on the boots was blood. Random place to find boots.
Correct. We now know how the boots got there.
Can you tell us?
Brenner has admitted he's the one who took the boots out there.
So James Brenner was a man squatting on nearby property, correct?
On the same property the grain shed's on.
On the same property of the grain shed. James and Dylan knew each other.
Correct.
Friends?
He'd work for him off and on.
Acquaintances.
Yeah,
and kind of became
acquaintances.
somewhat
Yeah.
friends.
Okay. So James has since told you guys,
Told law enforcement.
told law enforcement that he put Dylan's boots there.
Correct.
How did he get Dylan's boots?
So he said he found them by the shed, picked them up, moved them by his camper somewhere, and then decided that Dylan wasn't coming back for them. Those boots, and Dylan hadn't been there in almost a month. He was over working in Independence Valley and on the Wine Cup. Dylan had not been to Lucin. And Brenner had said he hadn't seen Dylan in months. A month, somewhere in that timeline. Those boots were not in that desert during that rainstorm on Friday. Those boots didn't even have dust on them. I bet you when Brenner put them there, or mud, it was Monday when he knew we were coming out and he had to get rid of them.
Okay, so back up a little bit. He said he found the boots by his shed.
By the shed.
By the shed that was there, and that he hadn't seen Dylan in a month, so he needed to just get rid of them. Or move
Pick them up and move them twice, and then
So that he moved them from the shed area to behind the dirt pile.
he moved them twice, from the shed area to by his camper, I guess, and then.
So Dylan had said Dylan had called my mom at roughly around the gate.
Yes.
Is where the phone pinged. Right after that, he called Brenner. And Brenner had said he'd been at his place all day Friday and all day Saturday until 2:30. And he went to a barbecue.
And never seen Dylan.
And never saw anyone. And Dylan's phone was shown pinging at the grain shed, and then went back to Dylan's on Saturday.
Camper.
And then came back to Jim's, and then left and went all the way to the Lucin Pond, and that's where we found Dylan's phone.
Was in
Lucin Pond.
Okay, so the first kind of big development that you're sharing is that the boots, Brenner has told law enforcement that he put the boots out by the dirt pile.
Yeah.
The second thing that you just said, Justin, is that Dylan's phone was found in the pond?
Yes. Lucin Pond.
And it was pinging in Dylan's area, like Justin just explained, all day. That phone never left that area.
Right after the phone call to my mother, he called Jim Brenner, probably I would assume, to open the gate. And then he went up to Jim Brenner's, the phone did, and was around there for a while, and then went back to Dylan's place, and then back to Jim Brenner's, and stayed there the rest of the day on Saturday until around 2:30 or so.
Which is when Brenner said he stopped at the pond before he went to Don's for lunch. So he placed himself at the pond when Dylan's phone was thrown in the pond.
And Brenner told this to law enforcement again? So Brenner said the day Dylan disappeared, which happened to be the same time that Dylan's phone is pinging by the pond, Brenner
from
told-
the backside of the property back
Yeah.
to the pond.
Brenner said he stopped by the pond on his way to Dawn, who also lives out there, for lunch.
But going the back way, so if you pull up that picture, that first time Diesel Brothers was out there, you'd see, you got the pond over here, you got Brenner's, and you got Dylan's. So Dylan's phone made it to the pond the back way. The only person who takes that back way is Brenner.
Have they retrieved the phone?
Yes.
Do you know, is there any did it salvage any information, or is it
We
dead?
had all
No.
this phone information already. We cloned it, and there was nothing
There's nothing like as far as calls or texts or anything?
nothing unusual.
What was the date of Saturday?
The 18th of June.
The 18th of June is when they found it. I
Yeah.
was there.
Yeah, he was there.
And just to search and rescue, they'd been going across the pond all the way just as they were about to get to the very end. That's when they found it.
And you're saying the phone pinged at Brenner's trailer, at his property?
Yes.
Yes.
But he said that he hadn't seen Dylan.
Correct.
Yes.
And-
And that he'd been there all
And
day.
that he'd been there all day, but
Friday
he never
and
seen
Saturday.
Dylan. But Dylan's phone's
And
pinging
Friday
there.
night, Dylan's phone was pinging out in where he was
Farming.
drilling.
Yep.
It's the Triticale.
Which he had been there. Dylan, had
Yes.
been there.
Yes.
But as far as everything after that phone call to Grandma, while there may have been movement on the phone, you don't know if that was actually him.
No,
holding the
we
phone.
know it wasn't Dylan.
You know it
Well,
wasn't Dylan.
Yeah.
I mean,
we would
Or
assume.
assume.
We would
yeah,
assume it
yeah.
wasn't.
I mean, that's why it wasn't answering. That's
We don't
why.
know when it went up and moved around to the grain shed, if Dylan was with the phone when it went back to Dylan's place,
Yeah.
or if it went with Dylan. We don't know any of that.
The one thing is all the evidence is at where Brenner was squatting with that shed. So we don't feel it was Dylan going back to the I mean, I think Dylan's phone, but I don't think it was Dylan.
So let's talk about Dylan's truck that was there on the property. You originally went out there and you guys got inside, right?
Broke
Yes.
the window, just
Broke the window to get inside because you didn't have the key fob to unlock
Correct.
it. And what did you find in the truck?
Nothing.
Nothing unusual.
What we were looking for wasn't there. The gun,
The gun. That's all we were looking for was his guns.
his guns.
His guns. Did you ever find his guns?
The
His
shotgun.
shotgun was here in Idaho Falls. The guy that worked for me went to the house that Dylan stays at, and the shotgun was here. But the pistol we did not find
until it came back.
until it came back a couple days later.
What do you mean until it came back?
So when we went to Dylan's farm, we were specifically looking for his guns. That was his guns and Dylan. Two things. That was it. So we walked in the camper. Justin and I both walked in, go through it all. On his bathroom sink was his gun case. No gun in it. Opened it. It's got the foam. Nothing. Opened the medicine cabinet. The next day, his sister Justin's sister cleans out the bathroom for Karen to use. No gun. She sets her Clorox wipes right there. Next day, pistol, laying there with the clip out of it. Broad daylight where we'd all looked.
So sometime overnight, you're saying someone entered and put the gun there.
Yep. Next day, okay, so at this point, Box Elder is there. They're taking pictures. Next day, the key fob comes back. Same exact location. Somebody was putting his stuff back. And at this point, Box Elder is still not saying this is a crime scene. Something's going on out here. Nothing. People are everywhere. They do nothing about it.
So did you all find the gun and the key fob?
It was my son and Dylan's friend.
Yeah.
That walked in the trailer and said, "Oh, it's here."
Yeah.
I don't even think that they knew it was missing
No, they didn't even know we were looking for it. They
because
just
they weren't there when we broke the window and were looking.
But you're sure it wasn't there the first time you
Oh,
looked?
absolutely not.
From what I heard, the law enforcement had taken pictures.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in the pictures.
Yeah, it absolutely was not there. Neither one of them. And so when Dylan's grandparents brought the extra key fob, I set it in the exact same location. Walked to his pickup, hit the button, and it would unlock. It was close enough it would still unlock it. That key fob and that gun were not there. They came back, and there was really only 2 people out there with access to put those back underneath our noses, and that was Brenner and then Dawn.
So why do you think whoever had those items brought them back?
Because I truly believe that they thought we were going to come out and look for Dylan for a day or two and go home and say he'll show up. I don't think they thought, Brenner especially, that it was going to go to the extent and we were not going to leave that desert. And so I think he didn't want to be caught with it. So what better thing to do than put it back? And they were wiped down. I mean, they're smart enough to wipe them down. They didn't get anything off of them.
Let's talk about this shed that you mentioned earlier, with where Brenner said the shoes were.
Yes.
What is this shed, and what was kept in there? Was this a shed that Dylan would use to store equipment and stuff, or?
No, he just put his truck in it to protect the seed.
It was just a steel framed shed.
Yeah, it's just a little shed.
30 by 40 or something like that, just
Okay.
big enough to back a truck into, and it was there. I don't know that Dylan had ever used it before.
I don't think so. Not really.
Has it been searched by law enforcement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know, was anything unusual found in
So
there?
there was some evidence that the FBI found that we've, like I said, we're not going to release. But the problem with the shed is on June 2nd, Brenner pulled the grain truck out on his own and cleaned it.
Was cleaning the shed
Cleaning
with the law
the
enforcement
shed.
there,
Watching
with us
him.
there.
Said they can't do anything. I seen him take out I seen him take out 4 garbage bags and put them in the back of his pickup. Now, you'll see when the Diesel Brothers interview's released, we did the interview from inside the shed. Trust me, he wasn't cleaning up garbage. It is full of his beer cans and garbage.
Yeah.
Whatever he took out in those bags was to hide what
Right
he
under
did.
law enforcement's
Right under
nose
their
and our
nose.
nose.
Yeah.
So you're saying that there's still garbage in there?
Oh,
It's
full
not
of
like
it.
he
That's all it
removed
is.
it.
Filthy.
He was specifically cleaning up specific stuff.
While he had a warrant
While he had a felony warrant for aggravated assault
with officers outside.
and a
walking
19
around.
missing-year-old. Or 19-year-old missing.
Missing.
Yes. So none of it adds up.
I guess you don't know where those garbage bags ended up.
Nope. No clue. More than likely, when they went to Wendover that Friday, they took him, would be my guess.
Jim and Don when
Yep.
they went to Windover.
So, in case someone's just tuning in, James Brenner has been arrested on an outstanding warrant and is in jail. He's a person of interest. Is that
No,
what
he's a suspect.
he is the suspect?
He is the one and only suspect.
in Dylan's
For now.
disappearance,
For
which
now,
they're now
yes.
calling a homicide.
Well, they say they're treating it as a homicide investigation, but no, Box Elder has not switched it. It is still missing person / criminal.
Okay.
It has not been switched. So when Palmer said that was to appease the public. If you're going to say we're treating it as a homicide investigation, you need to change it so we can get more resources and more help.
Palmer being the chief deputy for the Box Elder
Yes.
County Sheriff's Office, his deputy, Cade Palmer, told ABC4 News in Salt Lake that there's substantial evidence that it was a homicide. So the interesting thing that I've also learned is that apparently Mr. Brenner's been in contact with your family,
Yeah, but Justin.
which doesn't happen a lot when a suspect, but have you all spoken with him?
I have.
haven't.
You have not. Justin, you have. And
have.
what have those conversations been like?
Oh, he's been hinting toward Chase. He won't say his name because it's a conflict of interest or something.
Chase Venstra,
Venstra.
is another person who's still in jail, but not in connection with this case again, who also lived out there.
Yeah.
No, he did not live out
Oh,
Or he was visiting.
He'd just go back and forth.
He'd go back and forth. So he wasn't living out there permanently, but Dylan knew him.
No.
Kind of, no?
No.
just ran into him.
Just ran into him.
Knew of him.
Yeah,
The barefooted man
the barefooted
that
man.
in the
Yes.
beginning was this suspicious man. So what James Brenner's telling you, or trying to point a finger to Chase?
And trying to tell us to search the road that goes into Clinton, Utah, and take four-wheeler. He wanted us to take a four-wheeler and time it. But what he doesn't know, I guess, is that Chase Venstra at 7 in the morning, I believe, was on camera at the Flying J in
Snowville.
Snow. So Chase was in Snowville at 7:30
Yeah.
or something.
And how far away is Snowville?
It's an hour
Hour
and a half drive
2 hours.
from there.
And then he was seen later
And
in the
then
day.
In
again.
Clinton, I think in Clinton, Utah, in a KFC on camera.
On camera.
Interesting.
And they pulled his phone records.
So Jim was just leaning me towards him. He wanted to talk to me and Dawn and talk about a place that Dylan had hid some stuff on Dylan's property, which I have no idea where that would be. It's a flat piece of ground.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine where, and when we were out there with the Diesel Brothers, I drove all around again.
Yeah.
Because we second guess ourselves all
we
the
both
time.
constantly going through the same things.
We checked the grain truck. I don't know how many times at the very beginning. I still wondered if I'd checked it enough. But so he was leaning towards Chase, and I wasn't sure whether what I was supposed to tell him, or if I should try to act like I was on his side, or if I was supposed to call him out. Well, he kept calling, and he talked to my mom, and my mom called him out on some of those things, and Brenner called Brenner out on some of the things that I just said, and he said, well, I can't talk to you anymore. You're gonna have to talk to my lawyer. So my mom called him out.
Yeah.
And I didn't know when I talked to him. This was a week later when she called him out. I didn't know really how I was supposed to talk with him, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I would imagine there's some sort of
I wondered if I needed to kind of play like, yeah, Chase was the guy, and see if he'd talk and about some more stuff, but
because you want information out of him,
right?
You don't want to jump
I wanted
down
to keep talking to him more often.
Well, and see, Brenner, contrary to what people have said, he has had no outgoing communication. This is Justin and Larry and Karen are the first, so he has had no clue what's been developing. So he's been in there stewing, trying to figure out why he's the suspect. I mean, he does know that. He's got an attorney, but as far as watching the news and knowing everything that we're pushing for, he's not had a clue. And so I think when Karen finally called him out, like, it was a slap. Like, no, we know, we got the evidence. We know you did something to Dylan.
Larry and Karen are your parents?
Yes.
Okay. So that's interesting. Do you hope to talk to him again?
Yeah, I don't want to talk to him. I don't like talking to him even one bit. But yeah, I would like to talk to him and see what he has to say a little more.
In hopes of getting some information.
Something comes out.
Yeah.
So you've told us about the boots, which were moved, that he admitted to moving, the phone that was found in the pond, the gun and the key fob that were found inside of his trailer. As you're learning all this, I'm sure you're saying the evidence is mounting and pointing to this person.
Yes.
And is that just becoming frustrated because we still don't know where Dylan is?
It is overwhelming for us to have to, and like Jess said, we will have the same conversation 15 times and still not remember what each other said and have to have it again. Because it is so overwhelming that, they shut us out. They had all of this evidence besides the phone in the first 3 days, and they did nothing. They letting that grain shed get cleaned out, I believe, would have gave us all our answers. I believe whatever was in there would have gave us, he'd have been arrested and we'd have got answers. So it is so frustrating because we go back on it and we think back of all the wrongdoings by Box Elder and the total disregard for their own authority. I mean, they wouldn't even arrest the man that they had a warrant for. So it's frustrating. It's like, do something. Right now we are at this wall of, we need to find Dylan or we need Brenner to talk. Evidence is not going to magically appear. It's gone. Whatever we have is what we have right now. So one or two things need to happen, and Box Elder is not helping us do either.
Last time we spoke in person here, Candace, you had called for the Box Elder Sheriff's Office to remove themselves from the investigation. Chief Deputy Palmer responded to that request to ABC4. He said, removing us from the case just doesn't make sense. We were here from the beginning. We've involved other agencies like the FBI, even the one she's named to take the lead on the case. And then a viewer, sent me this email that she sent to the governor's office in Utah and the attorney general's office in Utah, asking for what your request to
Right.
get a different law enforcement agencies. She received a response from a woman who handles constituent services. And basically what the governor's office said is that at the request of the Box Elder County Sheriff, our State Bureau of Investigations was assigned our most senior homicide investigator to conduct an independent review of this case separate from the full-time agent working for the FBI task force. This independent review has established credibility in the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office investigation, even with substantial and pertinent evidence. So it sounds like they had someone investigate to make sure Box Elder was doing what they need to do. So what's your response?
How do you do an investigation when it's one-sided?
You.
Why would Justin and I never contact
We have
about this?
recordings of all the people
Them
talking.
lying to us? All kinds of stuff. How can you say that they've done
be
their
right, don't
job
give a fuck.
when they didn't arrest the felon on day one? They wouldn't let us bring in bloodhounds. They
give
didn't
a
want the
fuck.
dogs out there, which they would have picked up on Dylan's scent knowing what was in the
I'm not
grain shed
filming you,
now.
bitch.
When the key fob
I'm
was found, when the
recording
gun
you.
was found, when the boots were found, they literally
It don't matter.
laughed at
As
us
long
and
as I
mocked
know
us in
I'm
that
recording
desert. They were
somebody, I can
ignorant,
record
they were
them.
arrogant, they lied,
That
and
is
we got
true.
proof of it. So how do you
I'm
how
in
do you
my
have
own
an
private house.
investigation
It's
when
my
Box
own
Elder says, oh,
recording.
this is the evidence that we have, and this is
Good
how we
luck to
found
you.
it? Because it's lies on how it was found, because it wasn't Box Elder, it was us. So that's like I told you.
Shut up,
That'd be
boy,
like
I
the
can
IRS
record
saying, hey, I'm
anything
going to
I
audit
want.
you, and I say, you can have my
already
QuickBooks, but
know.
you can't have my bank statements to
Roll the
back it up.
fuck away from me.
That's exactly what that investigation is. It is one-sided, and it is a bunch of garbage. I can't even believe they publicly came out with that and did not think how furious that would make us. This is our son. This is not a game of we need to make Box Elder look good. This is our child that they totally disregarded. It's not a good investigation, and they haven't done their job. And we had to scream for how many months? We had to have how many thousands of people write these letters and call to get the SBI to join, to get Box Elder to accept some help. The drone footage that we're doing now, that Diesel Brothers came out and did for us, I have on July 7th, Box Elder County on text rejecting that drone, basically saying it's of no use, no drone footage is gonna help find Dylan, we want nothing to do with it. But now it's public. Now Diesel Brothers have stepped in and helped us do it. Guess who called yesterday? Saying they'd help us fly it. Been texting me today. Amazing what happens 3 months later when it's made public and somebody else comes out and does their job. Still 5 months later. That is not a good investigation. Period.
Anything you want to add to that, Justin?
I think she got it all right there.
So how do you, I mean, is there a working relationship?
No.
So, I mean, do you have any sort of contact with law enforcement?
No,
So-
when we had the drone, is he the lead detective Moore?
Yeah.
He wouldn't come over and say nothing.
He
wouldn't
came
do
out.
nothing. He came out,
He came out while you were flying.
kicked dirt, and walked around.
Wouldn't come within 150 yards of either Justin or myself.
But you are confident with the FBI?
Yeah. And we need people to realize, because I keep rehearing in the interviews, people say, you know, the family wants the FBI or the SBI to take over. The FBI cannot take over, and we've never asked for that. And Justin and I are fully aware that the FBI can't take over. This is not a federal case. The FBI is assisting, and they've been amazing. The SBI, they say, is assisting, but other than the independent review, we have no clue because nothing is happening. They're not out there looking for Dylan, and they're not questioning the suspect. What are they doing? What is their ongoing investigation? What are we waiting for? A year when we're sitting on the same exact evidence and the same exact suspect? Something's got to happen. It's not going to magically materialize out of the sky. So I don't know what the SBI's done.
Do you think they might be questioning Brenner but just not telling you?
He's lawyered up. They can't. They haven't even, yeah.
Yeah.
And we understand that even if they charge him, you know, he's still lawyered up. She's going to say what he can or can't say. We totally get that. But with him reaching out in the family, knowing how he reacted the few times the FBI agent did get to talk to him, I truly believe the man will crack and tell us.
You do?
I truly believe he will crack. But Box Elder has to make that happen. If they're going to, for whatever reason, want to hang on to this case for prosecution, whether it's to save face or whatever they're thinking, which we have no confidence in them prosecuting, they haven't even worked the case. They need to be working towards finding Dylan, working towards getting him to talk. None of that's happening.